Everything in this universe is energy, and whether you realize it or not, you are constantly transmitting a frequency. The thoughts you think, the emotions you allow to dominate your mind, the beliefs you quietly repeat to yourself, they all create an invisible field around you. That field is powerful because it speaks louder than your words, louder than your actions, and louder than any strategy you might try to impress her with. A woman may not consciously analyze it, but she will always feel it. When your energy is low, uncertain, needy, or scattered, she will sense that too. But when you stand in high vibration, radiating certainty, peace, and a sense of fulfillment, it creates a pull she cannot ignore. She will find herself thinking of you because energy, unlike words, cannot be forgotten. It lingers. It vibrates. It penetrates deep into the subconscious mind. Imagine walking in a room filled with people. You don't even have to speak. Some people simply turn heads without trying. Why is that? It's not looks alone. It's not clothing. It's not material possessions. It's their energy. It's the inner frequency they have tuned themselves to. If your energy radiates confidence and self-assurance, she will associate that vibration with you. And even when you're not around, the mind replays what left the strongest impression. That is why some men are easily forgotten while others live rent-free in a woman's thoughts. You must understand that attraction is not just physical. It is energetic. When you choose to think thoughts of abundance, gratitude, and strength, those vibrations raise your emotional state. And when you feel good, when you vibrate high, you automatically shift how others perceive you. She will remember the way she felt around you more than what you said. She may not remember the exact words, but she will remember the energy those words carried. The smile you gave, the calmness you exuded, the certainty in your presence. These create mental imprints that last far longer than any text message or compliment. Energy builds memory, and memory creates attachment. Most men chase energy from the outside. They try to impress with flashy gestures, with constant communication, with proving themselves. But what they fail to realize is that when you are desperate to prove, you are already broadcasting a lower vibration. That frequency of lack repels more than it attracts. Instead, when you cultivate your energy from within, by working on your mindset, by focusing on growth, by choosing powerful thoughts, you generate a natural magnetic field. And this magnetic energy is what keeps her thinking of you, even when you're not together. Think about it like music. Certain songs you can hear one time, and they stick with you. You replay them in your mind. You hum them without even trying. Why? Because their vibration touched something inside you. People are no different. When your energy resonates with her deeply, you become the song stuck in her head. She doesn't even choose it consciously. It just happens. That is the power of energy. You don't chase, you attract. You don't push, you pull. The quality of your inner world determines the strength of that attraction. If your mind is filled with doubt, worry, and insecurity, that will leak through no matter how well you try to hide it. But if your inner world is rich with vision, clarity, and calm, it radiates a confidence that makes her curious, intrigued, and drawn in. She will think about you nonstop because your energy gave her an experience she doesn't find with most people. The truth is, she will forget words, she will forget gifts, but she will never forget the way you made her feel. And what dictates that feeling is not your external actions. It is your internal frequency. When you raise your vibration, you shift your very presence. You don't need to say much because your silence carries weight. You don't need to convince because your aura speaks for itself. You don't need to chase because attraction becomes a natural response to who you are being. She will keep thinking about you because your energy represents safety, power, inspiration, or mystery, qualities that her subconscious attaches value to. And when the subconscious attaches value, it does not let go easily. This is why it's essential to cultivate practice that keep your energy high. Meditation, gratitude, visualization, affirmations. These are not clutches. They are tuning instruments. They tune your mind to the right frequency so your energy becomes undeniable. When you operate at that level, you don't worry about whether she will think of you because it becomes inevitable. She cannot help but feel your energy even when you're not there, and she cannot help but replay it in her thoughts because it gave her a taste of something rare. So understand this energy creates attraction, and attraction creates memory. If you wanted to think about you nonstop, stop chasing, stop proving, stop lowering yourself into neediness. Instead, elevate your vibration, align your energy with confidence and abundance, and allow that frequency to do the work. Because the truth is, she won't just think about you because of what you did. She will think about you because of who you are being at an energetic level, and that is something no one can ever take away. The image you carry yourself is the foundation of how the entire world responds to you. It's not about the mask you put on for others, not about the carefully chosen words you use when you want to impress someone, but about the deep, rooted picture you have of who you are. That self-image operates like a magnet, constantly pulling experiences, people, and situations into your life that are in harmony with it. If you see yourself as unworthy, as someone who has to chase or prove, that is exactly the energy you radiate, and others will feel it instantly. But when you create a self-image of strength, confidence, value, and certainty, you don't need to force yourself into anyone's mind. Your presence lingers naturally, and she will find herself thinking you again and again without even knowing why. A woman doesn't fall for the surface. She connects with the depth of a man's being. When your self-image is fractured, when you secretly doubt yourself, you may cover with charm, humor, or even material possession, but she will sense that inconsistency. Energy never lies. On the other hand, when your self-image is aligned with true worth, with the inner knowing that you are enough, then you don't have to play roles. You become real, grounded, and authentic. And that is what stays in someone's mind. The subconscious remembers authenticity. She remembers the way a man who knows himself carries himself, his calm tone, his unshakable body language, his ease and silence. That all flows directly from the self-image he has chosen to embrace. Think of self-image like a thermostat in a room. No matter how hot or cold it gets outside, the thermostat pulls the room back to its set temperature. Your self-image works the same way. If you have set it at a low level, believing you're average, unworthy, or not enough, you will unconsciously sabotage yourself to return to that level, even if you temporarily rise above it. But when you set your self-image at a high standard, believing you are valuable, capable, magnetic, you will keep rising to meet that standard. She will think of you nonstop, not because you are pretending to be something, but because your energy is consistent with the image you have built. People remember consistency, and self-image ensures consistency. When you decide to see yourself as a man of value, you begin to act differently without forcing it. You no longer need to cling to attention because you know attention comes naturally to value. You don't need to chase validation because you validate yourself. You don't need to fear losing her because you understand that what is truly aligned with your energy cannot leave you. That quiet certainty is unforgettable. Women may meet many men who try to impress them, but very few who radiate the calm strength of self-belief. That's why when she goes home, when she's alone with her thoughts, she finds herself replaying moments with you. She wonders why she feels so pulled toward you. And the reason is simple. Your self-image projected a reality that her subconscious respects and cannot easily release. Everything in life mirrors how we see ourselves. If you believe you're insignificant, you will behave in small ways, and others will treat you accordingly. If you believe you are powerful, you will carry yourself in ways that command respect, and others will respond to that. This is not arrogance, it's alignment. Arrogance is pretending to be something you don't believe you are. Alignment is embodying what you truly accept about yourself. When you reach alignment, your actions, words, and energy all point in the same direction. And that clarity becomes magnetic. She will think of you because clarity leaves an impression that confusion never can. The key to building a strong self-image is repetition and belief. You cannot wait for others to affirm you because they will only mirror what you already hold true. You must begin to tell yourself the story you want others to believe about you. Stand in front of a mirror and declare your worth, not because the mirror changes you, but because repetition changes your subconscious. Visualize yourself as the man you want to be until the image becomes natural, until you can no longer tell the difference between imagination and reality. Over time, the world has no choice but to reflect that new image back to you. And when a woman encounters that energy, it imprints itself in her subconscious as well. She cannot forget the way a man who truly knows himself makes her feel. Your self-image also determines what you tolerate. A weak self-image allows mistreatment, disrespect, and neglect. A powerful self-image rejects those things without anger simply because they do not align with the standard you live by. That quiet refusal to settle communicates something profound. You are not desperate. You are not lacking. You are whole. That more than anything else creates a lasting impression. It shows her that your value doesn't depend on her attention. It exists regardless. And paradoxically, that independence makes you more attractive, more memorable, more difficult to erase from her mind. So if you want her to think of you nonstop, don't start by asking what you should do to her or for her. Start by asking who you are to yourself. Strengthen your self-image. Build a vision of yourself as a man of worth. And then align your thoughts, emotions, and actions with that image. Because the truth is, the mind cannot stop thinking about what radiates certainty, value, and authenticity. And when your self-image embodies those qualities, you become unforgettable. The human mind is drawn to what creates emotional impact. It's not the small talk. It's not the routine exchanges that linger. It's the moments that carry weight. The experiences that stir something deep inside. When you understand this truth, you begin to see that if you want her to think of you nonstop, you must focus not on doing more, but on creating meaning in every interaction. The law of attention operates on the principle, whatever grabs the emotional part of the mind is what will replay over and over again. People forget words, but they never forget how those words made them feel. People forget gestures, but they never forget the emotional vibration those gestures carried. If you become a source of emotional impact, her mind will keep returning to you no matter where she is or what she is doing. When you listen to someone deeply, really listen, without waiting for your turn to speak, you give them something rare in this world, undivided attention. That kind of presence makes an imprint. She might not recall every detail of the conversation, but she will remember the depth of your listening. She will remember the way you made her feel important, valued, and heard. That memory doesn't leave easily because most people never give that kind of attention. And since the mind attaches itself to what feels rare, you become the focus of her thoughts. Think about the difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Ordinary moments pass quickly, extraordinary moments linger. If you create moments that feel alive, spontaneous, and real, they etch themselves into her subconscious. Something as simple as making her laugh in a genuine way. Something as simple as showing kindness when she least expects it, or bringing insight that changes her perspective. Those are the things she replays later when she's alone. The mind is wired to revisit what produces strong emotion, whether joy, curiosity, inspiration, or even mystery. When you can trigger those emotions authentically, you stay alive in her imagination long after the interaction has ended. This is why it's not about constant contact. You can message her 100 times a day, and none of it will matter if the messages don't carry meaning. But one conversation, one experience that touched her deeply will echo in her mind endlessly. She won't replay the dozens of average texts she receives from others, but she will replay the one interaction with you that made her feel seen, understood, and alive. That is the law of attention at work. It latches onto intensity, not frequency. And understand this. Emotional impact doesn't require you to perform or pretend. It requires you to be fully present in the moment. Presence is powerful because it's rare. Most people are distracted, thinking of the past, worrying about the future, or waiting for their turn to speak. When you are fully in the moment with her, your energy communicates something different. That difference captures her attention and embeds you in her memory. She will keep thinking of you because she experienced something with you that she doesn't experience with others. True presence. There's also the power of contrast. When you give her an experience that interrupts her routine, her subconscious marks it as significant. If her days are predictable and you introduce spontaneity, she remembers. If her life feels noisy and you bring calm, she remembers. If her conversations are shallow and you bring depth, she remembers. The human mind craves novelty, and novelty locks in attention. You become the interruption in her normal pattern, and because of that, she replays you in her thoughts. But impact isn't just about what you say or do. It's about the energy you carry while doing it. When your words are aligned with sincerity, they carry weight. When your compliments are real and not manipulative, they linger. When your actions come from authenticity rather than performance, they create trust. She will think of you nonstop, not because you said what every other man says, but because your words were backed by an energy of truth. Truth cuts through noise, and the subconscious never forgets what felt true. You can also create impact by sharing your vision, your passion, your sense of purpose. When you speak about what drives you, when you reveal the fire that fuels your actions, you stand out instantly. Most people talk about trivial things, but when you speak from a place of depth and clarity, you awaken something inside her. She begins to associate you with inspiration, and inspiration is addictive. The mind craves to return to what inspires it, and so without effort, she thinks of you again and again. And perhaps the most powerful element of attention is mystery. When you reveal enough to connect, but not everything to be predictable, you create space in her mind to wonder. That wondering keeps her thoughts revolving around you. She asks herself questions. She replays your words. She tries to decode your energy. Mystery is not about playing games. It's about being multidimensional. A man who's constantly growing, constantly learning, constantly expanding can never be fully known, and that intrigue keeps him alive in her thoughts. The law of attention is simple yet profound. People think about what shakes their emotions, what breaks their patterns, what makes them feel alive. If you focus on giving her emotional experiences instead of seeking validation, if you focus on creating depth instead of chasing, you become unforgettable. You don't have to fight for space in her mind. Her own subconscious gives it to you. Scarcity is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. When something is abundant, when it's always available, when it comes too easily, it begins to lose its value. On the other hand, when something is rare, when it cannot be found everywhere, when it carries a sense of uniqueness, the mind begins to treasure it, protect it, and think about it constantly. This principle applies not only to material things, but also to human presence and attention. If you want her to think about you nonstop, you must learn the art of valuing your time and energy so highly that it becomes scarce. Not because you are playing games, but because you genuinely recognize your worth and refuse to spread yourself thin. That recognition of value automatically makes you unforgettable in her mind. Think about it this way, water is everywhere, and so people don't stop to admire every glass of it. But diamonds are rare, and that rarity makes them precious, desirable, and unforgettable. Your presence works the same way. If you are always available, always texting, always calling, always eager, you might feel like you're showing interest. What you're really doing is making your presence common. The subconscious doesn't hold on tightly to what is common because it assumes it can always come back to it later. But when you limit your availability, when your time feels protected, when your energy isn't something anyone can have at any moment, her mind elevates its value and she begins to think of you even when you're not around. Scarcity creates curiosity. When you're not always in her space, she begins to wonder where you are, what you're doing, what's on your mind. That curiosity is powerful because it keeps her thoughts revolving around you. The less you reveal, the more imagination fills in the blanks, and imagination is stronger than reality. She might spend hours replaying conversations, analyzing your words, or thinking about your silence, simply because you didn't make yourself overly available. By not being constantly present, you create a vacuum, and the mind rushes to fill that vacuum with thoughts of you. But scarcity doesn't mean disappearing. It doesn't mean ignoring, and it doesn't mean withholding affection in a manipulative way. It means carrying yourself with such self-respect that your time, attention, and energy are not given away cheaply. It means you are selective about where you invest yourself, and she feels that when she is with you, she knows your presence is valuable because you don't throw it around carelessly. And that awareness makes every moment with you more memorable, more impactful, and more difficult to forget. When you live this way, you don't have to remind her of your worth. Her own mind will remind her again and again, every time she notices your absence. Scarcity also creates contrast when she spends time with men who are always available, always chasing, always seeking validation, and then compares it to you, a man who carries himself with quiet confidence, who values his time, who doesn't feel the need to be constantly present. The difference is striking. Human beings remember contrasts. Her subconscious will replay you not just for who you are, but for how different you feel compared to others. That difference becomes a form of scarcity in itself, because it's not something she experiences every day. You stand out, and what stands out is what gets remembered. Another aspect of scarcity is growth. When you are busy building your life, pursuing your goals, investing in your growth, you naturally cannot be available at every moment, and that natural limitation makes your presence more scarce. But beyond that, the very fact that you're focused on your own expansion makes you more valuable in her eyes. She sees you as a man who has purpose, who doesn't revolve around her, who isn't defined by attention. That self-sufficiency makes you desirable because it's rare. Most people are dependent on others for validation. But when you're anchored in your own vision, your energy communicates independence. Independence is scarce, and scarcity creates attraction. Scarcity also works on memory. When something doesn't happen often, it creates anticipation, and anticipation magnifies memory. If she sees you every single day, speaks to you every single hour, the experiences blur together. But if she doesn't always know when she'll see you, if every interaction carries a sense of uniqueness, her mind holds onto those moments tightly. They become treasures in her subconscious, and she replays them frequently. That is why people remember rare experiences more vividly than common ones. By valuing your time and presence, you make every encounter with her a rare experience, and that rarity ensures she will think about you constantly. Even in silence, scarcity works. If you don't feel the need to respond instantly every time, if you allow space between your words and actions, that silence becomes a form of scarcity. She begins to think, to wonder, to replay what was last said. The space you create doesn't push her away. It pulls her thoughts in your direction because the mind hates uncertainty. It fills the silence with imagination, and imagination keeps you alive in her memory. The truth is, scarcity is not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's not about withdrawing from manipulation. It's about knowing your worth so deeply that you refuse to make yourself ordinary in her world. You allow your presence to be precious, your time to be valuable, and your energy to be selective. And when you live that way, her mind cannot treat you like everyone else. You become rare, and rarity is unforgettable. Growth is one of the most magnetic qualities a person can possess because growth communicates vitality. It shows that you are not stagnant, not locked in the same patterns, not simply repeating yesterday over and over again. Instead, you are expanding, evolving, becoming more. Human beings are naturally drawn to movement and progress, and when a woman observes that in you, it leaves an impression that her mind cannot easily release. She will think about you nonstop because growth makes you unpredictable in the best way. Every time she encounters you, there is something new, some layer she hasn't seen before, some insight she didn't expect, some sign of evolution that keeps her curious and invested. The problem most men run into is predictability. They settle into routines, they stop learning, they stop striving, and in doing so, they become repetitive. And what is repetitive quickly fades from memory because the subconscious does not cling to what it already understands completely. But when you are consistently growing, consistently adding to yourself, you create novelty, and novelty imprints itself in the mind. She will think of you because her subconscious recognizes you as a source of stimulation, as someone who challenges the ordinary. You become an experience, not just a person. Growth also communicates ambition, and ambition is deeply attractive because it reflects strength of character. When she sees you investing in your future, building your goals, striving to expand, she sees a man who refuses to settle. That energy is rare, and as with all rare things, it becomes unforgettable. She will replay her encounters with you, not only because of who you are in the moment, but because of who you are becoming. That sense of becoming creates anticipation. She thinks of you because she wonders what new aspect of you she will encounter the next time. Personal growth creates depth. A man who reads, who learns, who refines his mind, his spirit, and his craft always carries more to share. His conversations are richer, his perspective broader, his presence fuller. That depth makes an impact, and the mind remembers impact. Instead of blending into the background like everyone else, you stand out as someone who adds value, someone who expands their world simply by being in it. That expansion is intoxicating because most people shrink energy, they drain. But you, through your growth, radiate abundance. And abundance keeps people thinking, wondering, desiring more of your presence. Consistency and growth is also key. Anyone can grow for a short period of time, make temporary changes, or try to impress with short bursts of ambition. But when growth becomes a lifestyle, when it's obvious that every day you are evolving, you create a different kind of attraction. You become the man who's always moving forward. And the human mind loves to attach to progress. She cannot stop thinking of you because her subconscious recognizes you as someone she can't fully catch up to, someone who is always just a step ahead. That chase is not something you force. It's something your growth creates naturally. Growth communicates self-respect. It tells the world that you believe in yourself enough to invest in yourself. It shows that you are unwilling to stay stuck, unwilling to accept mediocrity. That silent message lingers louder than any words. When you improve your health, refine your communication, deepen your knowledge, or strengthen your discipline, she notices. Even if she doesn't verbalize it, her subconscious absorbs it. And later, when she is away from you, those improvements replay in her mind. She thinks about you not because you demanded her attention, but because your commitment to growth inspired her. Inspiration is powerful, and the mind doesn't let go of what inspires it. Another dimension of growth is unpredictability. A man who is the same every time becomes easy to categorize, easy to forget. But a man who is evolving cannot be fully defined. That element of surprise keeps her thoughts engaged. She wonders what new insight you will share, what new goal you will chase, what new energy you will carry. Curiosity feeds thought, and when she is curious about you, she cannot help but think of you. You don't even have to try. It's a natural result of living a life of constant improvement. Growth also separates you from the majority. Most people complain about their circumstances, but never change them. Most people settle for comfort rather than chase expansion. When you live differently, when you are committed to rising higher, you stand out sharply against that backdrop of mediocrity. That sharpness is impossible to ignore. Her mind will compare you to others, and the contrast will make you unforgettable. You are not like everyone else, and that difference becomes a story her subconscious retells over and over. Even in silence, growth speaks. The way you carry yourself changes. The way you walk, the way you respond, the way you engage, it all shifts as you evolve. She notices the subtle differences, even if she can't explain them. And her mind begins to reflect on those changes. That reflection is thought, and repeated thought is memory. Over time, the memory of you grows stronger instead of fading because you are not static. Every version of you she encounters is fresh, alive, and magnetic. So growth is not just about achieving more for yourself. It is about becoming unforgettable in the minds of others. By constantly learning, expanding, and refining yourself, you naturally keep her thoughts on you. You give her subconscious no choice but to replay your presence because your presence is never the same twice. When your words, actions, and goals are aligned with one another, you project a sense of clarity that is rare and magnetic. People are naturally drawn to certainty because it gives them a sense of direction, a feeling of stability in a world that's often chaotic and inconsistent. A woman will think about you nonstop when she feels that you are a man who's not only sure of himself, but also aligned with a purpose greater than temporary gratification. That alignment speaks silently without you needing to declare it. It shows up in how you speak, how you carry yourself, how you make decisions, and how you interact with others. She sees it, she feels it, and she remembers it. Alignment makes you unforgettable because it communicates integrity, strength, and focus. Qualities that stick in the subconscious mind. When a man says one thing but does another, when he talks about goals but never moves toward them, when he claims confidence but his actions show insecurity, his energy creates confusion. And confusion is forgettable because it doesn't make a lasting imprint. But when a man is aligned, when what he believes, what he says, and what he does all point in the same direction, his energy is consistent, and consistency builds trust. Trust is one of the most powerful forces in attraction because the subconscious mind holds on tightly to what feels safe and true. She will think of you again and again because her mind has categorized you as someone reliable, someone steady, someone whose presence feels anchored. Alignment is also powerful because it conveys focus. A man who is aligned with his purpose doesn't get distracted by trivial things, and that focus is noticeable. It shows that you are living for something bigger than attention, something bigger than momentary approval. That kind of energy is compelling because it suggests depth. It tells her that you are not easily swayed, that you are not living by impulse, that you have a direction and you are committed to it, even when you're not physically there. Her thoughts circle back to you because your presence represents focus and direction in a world where most people are scattered. Purpose adds weight to your presence. When you know where you are going in life, when you are working toward goals that truly matter, you don't need to chase anyone. You carry a quiet confidence that comes from being rooted in something real. That confidence communicates value without words. It shows her that you are not looking for someone to complete you. You are complete already, and you are simply inviting others to share in your journey. That independence is magnetic. She will think of you because her subconscious recognizes that you don't need her to define your life. And paradoxically, that very independence makes you stand out. Alignment also means authenticity. When your inner world and outer world match, you don't have to pretend. You don't wear masks. You don't try to impress with false images. You simply live in truth. Authenticity is rare, and because it is rare, it is memorable. Most people project a version of themselves that doesn't match who they really are. But when your energy, words, and actions flow in harmony, she feels that authenticity. It creates a sense of comfort and security because she knows what she sees is real. And when something feels real, the subconscious does not want to let go of it. She will replay you in her mind because you gave her an experience of truth in a world full of illusions. Another element of alignment is discipline. It takes discipline to align your habits with your goals, your words with your values, your actions with your vision. That discipline radiates strength. When she observes that strength, even in small ways, it leaves an impression. Maybe it's the way you take care of your body. Maybe it's how you handle challenges without breaking character. Maybe it's how you commit to your responsibilities without excuses. Each act of discipline reinforces the image of alignment, and the mind remembers what is strong. She will think of you because her subconscious associates you with power and consistency. Alignment also creates peace when you are not battling yourself, when your life is not full of contradictions. You radiate a calmness that others can feel. That calmness is magnetic because it contrasts with the inner turmoil most people carry. When she is around you, she feels that peace and her mind begins to crave it when you are not there. She thinks of you nonstop because you became a source of balance in her life, and balance is unforgettable. And then there is the sense of inevitability that alignment carries. When you are aligned with your purpose, when your actions are consistent, you carry yourself as a success. It's not a matter of if but when. That inevitability creates attraction because it communicates certainty. Certainty is rare, and the mind holds on to it. She will remember the way you speak with conviction, the way you walk with direction, the way you make decisions without hesitation. Those impressions replay in her thoughts because they symbolize something enduring, something she cannot ignore. Ultimately, alignment transforms you into a man whose presence is both inspiring and grounding. You become a symbol of clarity in a world where most people are confused, a symbol of strength in a world where most are uncertain, a symbol of authenticity in a world where many hide behind masks. She will think of you nonstop because alignment is not just attractive, it is unforgettable.